See, the railroad company bought ties and other people bought stuff, but Foster Falls had a charcoal furnace. And people, after they cut the timber sawmilling out, they'd go ahead and cut in the coal wood, 4-foot lengths. And you got 50 cents a cord for a cord. It's 4 feet long. The wood was, and the cord was 4 feet high and 8 feet long. That made a standard cord. And you got 50 cents for it. Now, about 1.25 to 2 cord was about the limit. But Dad and Bill Puckett, they run on about 2.5 cord a day. They were extra. Younger men and good strong men and worked hard. So now, in going to people went to church, of course, most of them they do now, in a way. That is, you went to church and the church would be full maybe, and they'd be more on the outside than there were any inside because there's no other place to go. Only to church. Well, I saw it, and it's rather amusing. You'd see a man get his family up to go to church. They'd just old steers up and hook them up where they'd been on grass. And he'd get his round on tobacco and put in his pocket. And start to church with a white shirt on. Always had men yellow wore white shirts. It's unusual to see a man go to church with anything but a white shirt. Well, that white shirt was white when it started, but when they got back that night, the old steers were flinging their tails, and they were chewing out tobacco, spitting it. That was the prettiest brown and green polka dot shirt that you ever laid eyes on. Now, that was actually, anyone would have laughed about that. They couldn't help it. He'd sat right on the front of the wagon, you see. So all the other wagon was full of straw and the family in it. They got 2 or 3 families all in one wagon. Somebody, he'd have a long rope to his brake to pull his brakes and draw his brakes. And then, and another thing was a very popular thing in the winter to eat. People don't do too much of it anymore. Was molasses and buckwheat bread. Every farmer or two, every 2 or 3, would have a cane mill and fetch a cane. And then he'd taken it down there at Bob Opal's old mill on Forest Branch, take it down there, get your buckwheat flour. And you can get rye flour too. But we never did at home like rye bread much. We eat the flapjack, we call them flapjacks. Eat those. So you can see that we have, in some respects, advanced quite a lot. Now, medical services, we had a good doctor at Woodlawn, Dr. Robinson, but there's no telephone much. Just once in a while you could get through, and somebody would have to get on a horse or walk and go to up there and get him to come see him. Well, of course, when he come to see you, everybody that needed medical attention up and down the road, they'd follow that doctor where he was going and get attention while he's out. He'd sometimes make a dozen calls at $1 apiece while he's out. That's what they cost then, somewhere like that. And now, there's one other amusing thing about doctoring. And I guess that will conclude mine, for that's about enough to say. I had Dr. Davis who lived over here, right in Pine City. The house where he lived is still standing. One of his son's wife lives there, Wilma, lives there now. And old man had burned it. They lived down on Forest Branch somewhere in there. And his wife would get mad at somebody in the community. And this was told me by a reliable man. He's dead now, but he was a reliable man. And I heard somebody tell the same story. Owen wanted to get on a horse. He'd ride way up there, about 13 or 14 miles, best way to go, and get the doctor to come see his wife. All the world's wrong. She just gets mad at somebody. She'd go into spasms to get the doctor and give her something to quiet her down. Well, he'd done that several times, and he got tired of it. He told Mr. Burnett one day, he said, Mr. Burnett, I'm going to change Mr. Burnett's medicine. He said, it don't seem like what I've been doing for doing him much good. Well, doctor said, anything that you can do that's reasonable, I'd be glad to pay you for it. But it said it knocks her out for a week or two when she has those spasms. So he got his medicine, he mixed it up. We had a big glass of croton oil and Epicac. So he told her, I said, Miss Bernard, they said, that costs a whole lot of medicine. I don't care how much of it. He said, now you'll have to drink it all right down. I want you to drink it all down. So she drank it down. He jumped up and said, well, I've got to see somebody that's got pneumonia fever. I've got to go. Mr. Bernard said, let me pay you, doctor. I said, I've got time. You take some other time. The way he went. Well, of course, Miss Bernard got it all right. But old Miss Bernard said they had to scour the whole house off and bought a mini car too. You know? And people that drove cattle, it's supposed to be an expert bull puncher, but a man that had a plug of rounds on the back in his pocket, the red handkerchief, elk and shoes and yarn socks, and whatever kind of breeches he sure happened to have. And he didn't call them drivers or anything, operators, they called them bull punchers, and you could see him go down the road. Thrashing, you had a low steam engine. Well, sometimes they had traction engines, but around us for a long, long time. And with 2 yoke of cattle to the boiler, 2 yoke of cattle to the thrash box, unless it got so steep somewhere you couldn't, and you'd hook them all to it and drag it up. And I saw my dad come down the road, riding the lead steer and on the blacksnake whip, holler every once in a while, big get loud. A lot of steer drivers, they cussed a lot, but my dad didn't. He didn't use no profane language. But them old steers knew whenever he cracked that whip and hollered what to do. And that's little young'un that'd go follow along. Oh, the fireman, he'd pick up wood all along the road, pitch in that bar, and he'd reach up and get that whistle cord. And every young'un that just like you saw gangs of pattern just how they do. Every kid would run in the fence corner and over top of one another, and everything else to get away from that whistle, scaring them to death. Then, of course, later on, they got steam engines, traction engines, and eventually got others. So I believe that concludes what I have, and that's enough, I think.
Because was the road basically where 52, was that the main road through that area where 52 is now?
That's road. Well, now that brings up something else that none of you may not know about. But I've heard my grandmother and old man George Slade, a Civil War veteran, say that they carried the mail from Max Meadows to Mount Airy. They went over one day, come back the next. And 52 got opened up just before the Civil War. When Max Carter come from North Carolina, Virginia, and settled. Just before the Civil War, and they just to get opened up to public camp. And it's changed down the mountain over here, and it's changed some all along to get over to where Stone's Groceries, and it went to the left there, and now it goes to the right of the ridge down there. And in one place down at Short Creek, they made a long swing of about a mile, or followed the creek. And when they built a new road, they cut through. They cut that about 100 yards across there. That's about the only changes. There has been a change here at Beasley Hill. That's beyond where World has old cars. There's been 3 roads there. One, you can see the evidence of it now over to the right of the present road. And all over to the right of that was a road that I used to travel when I first began to go to Hillville and back. We traveled that road. Now it's over there. Of course, 77 took a lot of it. And some of your streams in that area, we have one, and I expect it's on Laurel's map, Sheriff, he's got the right area. It's known as Porter's Branch. And the folklore on that is that a man named Porter come in there to live and cleaned up some land and built him a place up there. And called it Porter's Branch. Now Hardy's Creek, that's the one that him and it and Porter's Branch come together down north of me. There was a man named Hardy. They got a land grant from the state of Virginia up on the headwaters of those little branches. And we assume, everybody did, that's why that's called Hardy's Creek. And the Short Creek then, that's the one that you go along 52 down there. I was told that the first settlers in this part of the county, that part of the county, were named Shorts, and they named that Shorts Creek. So that's where some of your names come from. And I believe that concludes what I have for you.
You would answer a question though, if anybody has a question,
Oh, yeah, if
right?
someone has a question
Yeah.
about anything there that I can help with, I'll be glad to. Now, don't you contradict too much as I said. No. I didn't get out those rules, you know, I stayed away from there.
You mentioned blind title and then passed on over without too much comment. What was the definition of a blind title?
Well, it's nothing more than, now you go to the store and you buy wine and this, that, and the other for all kinds of drinking, but they wouldn't have a license to operate a distillery and sell liquor, and because it cost them little, and the government would inspect them every few months. So they had a chute in the side of the building, wherever it's at, and you just get your coffee in there, and you just get out. Now out here at, oh man, at right close to where Bill Stone is, there. Ocean's granddad, old man John Bees, had a still, and he'd sell you liquor, hard cider, either one. And Paul said if you're going anywhere from home toward Woodlawn, that country, the nearest way to go is by John Bees' still and get your drink. If you went down to Puckett Camp around 1900, you stopped there at Shorts Creek and got your drink because they run a bar room there. It was an open bar room, it wasn't a Blind Tiger, they had license. And that's where the Gwynns got their start. They're about worth the people that are on the county today. Coxie Gwynn and Norm Gwynn went down there and opened up business. And Norm couldn't take it. They just get drunk and get in his bed and in his house, lay down on the floor and everything else. So he come back, he left. But Crockett stayed on 3 or 4 years while everything was on boom, and he got him a start. Right at George Street. But Dad, you see, he knew all those people, and then Norm Gwynn's wife, Kate, was Paul's half-brother's girl. And his father, she died when he was young, and he was all put loose from the time he was about 12 years old, and he went everywhere. Nothing bothered him, you see. Grandmother working here, working yonder to get something for him to eat, and kept that with her, and Paul got very pleased, you see. And then I've been told that it's so bad to run off, that 2 or 3 times she wanted him to be at home. When she got back, she'd take him out to the fence and lift up the lock of the fence, stick his head between the crack of the fence and let the fence back down so he could wiggle, but he couldn't get away when she got back. Now, that's what I've been told.
Who were the first people who came to the Laurel area? Who were the first families? Did your family, were they among the first people there?
The old man Alf McGee, he come up from North Carolina, and I think his daddy, Walter McGee, come with him. And he had 129 acres in one tract. And McGee Watson and somebody had 740 acres back there in the mountain. And my great-granddaddy Vaughn, Cager Vaughn, he had 500 acres just west of me there. In fact, some of it I owned it now. But after a few years, somewhere or another, he lost it through non-payment of taxes. Those days, if you didn't pay your taxes right away, they'd sell your property. They'd sell you a cow or anything you had to pay up the taxes. And he lost it through that. And my Johnny Puckett had 1,350 acres all in that area there. And by the time his great-grandson died, well, for years before he died, they didn't have a square foot. They used it up to live on. Sherry, they called her the major, and she run the show. She had 4 other pickets around there. And see, right after the Civil War, there's so many more women than there were men that lots of women were never married, but most of them had them some children. Sawyer was married. Lindy had 1 boy, Oscar. Sally, 1 boy, Bill. Fanny had a boy named Cub. Emma had a girl, and she died when she was about grown. And then, of course, it's not that way anymore. And the old man Puckett had that. He gave an acre, set aside 1 acre for a cemetery. That's where my people are buried. And it's getting full. They need more ground, but I don't know where they're going to get it. Is a piece of property be sold, I'm pretty soon maybe they'll get some of it, I don't know.
Well, I got one more question, I won't ask you more questions, just, you said you taught school
Mhm.
at one time? What
Yeah.
else, what'd you do to make your livelihood? What was the,
Well, for livelihood, well, my dad took me to the woods when I was about 8 years old. I went bush and carried up the tools for his cutting cold wood. When I was 10 years old, he took me to the woods and my brother, younger brother, and we cut timber. And we cut timber and things like that till I went on to the carbide plant, worked there as a laborer. Part of the summer, and they fired me, didn't sue me yet. Then I come to on school for a year, and the next year then, we cut timber till the 25th of July. Then I worked on the boat gang for New Jersey Zinc. And then that, when I say boat gang, that meant you done anything you wanted done. You had to do every kind of stuff, everything. And that's what I did to carbide plant. Well then, next summer I went to West Virginia, built roads. And I married too young, maybe not, I don't know. I won't dwell on that because I got a long farm, had a fine family. I taught school 2 years. Now how'd you get time to go to school to prepare for a teacher? I went out to Harold Porter's doctor's father, he was on the school board, told him if he had a place, I'd like to teach school for him. Well, he said, I need you. But he said, with no certificate, can't pay you nothing much. Well, I said, it's too late now for me to go to Radford. He said, I tell you what to do. He said, go down and register and take examinations and get your certificate. That's what I did. So I had 25 calendar clock hours in college and taught school 2 years, almost. And when my school was nearly out, 2 fellows come down in West County where I was sitting, my wife and I was sitting a turkey, and said they were on the hunt of a man to work for them in their storehouse and commissary and office. So I went up, taught school on Friday, went up there on Monday morning, on Saturday morning, 1926, went on the payroll that day, and I'm still on their payroll.
and that was who now?
1924, and I worked 40.5 years as in the clerical administrative, and what twice 2.5 years I was it. I was the only salaried man that was around. Then after that, well, I worked with a land survey crew for about 4 or 5 years. That's the reason I can help on some of these maps a little. And then I helped take census on a area. And I had 791 people, had one black man in the bunch. And I like never found him. He was in Detroit, and I finally found him right at the wind up. And then later on, I worked with this tax equalization board about 10 years ago. So you see, that's the reason why I love to play stuff like this. Now, if anybody else got anything I can help them with, will holler. I know Mr. Bedsoe knows his country that way, well, when you get above the mountain, he knows it. Because I've saw his name too many times.
Can you tell me what year you went to Radford, your 25 hours, and took your exam? What year was that?
Went to Richmond, I believe you said.
No, Radford.
Okay.
Oh, what year was that?
Mm-hmm.
That was 1922, before your time.
Yeah.
Burger Kyle was there, and Ossie Kyle was there, and that's the only two that I remember that I knew, and I knew them before I went there. And I run into Werner, and I stayed with up where he's at, up on the ridge, right up from the schoolhouse there. He went up the hill by the school end, and then I turned out to the right, and lived out there. And I had a first cousin lived out there too. I went to see him about 40 years later. He's dead now. So that's it.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Anything that I can help with, I yell, do the best I can.
Well, Mr. Vaughn, thank you very much. Very good job. We enjoyed it. We'll try to be out about 9 o'clock, so we've got 35 minutes, and we'll get some refreshments set up and